Flowing northeast, the Nile's headwaters create Africa's biggest lake. At Lake Victoria, the river begins its legendary journey. Leaving the lake, the Nile bursts into life and transforms into the mighty river of legends. Young and wild, the Victoria Nile rushes into foaming rapids, plunging downward into pools below. From Uganda's Murchison Falls National Park, the river embarks on an adventurous journey through one of the last untamed African landscapes. The river enters South Sudan and turns into Africa's largest swamp, the Sud. Over 1 million antelope hide in the water maze of the Sud. From the source in East Africa to the Sudanese deserts, the Nile runs through vast stretches of wilderness. Once past the waterfalls, the Nile continues serenely through Uganda's largest national park. Hippos stand guard over the river's journey. The animals are like the Nile, slow, tenacious, and unpredictable. Watching them as they doze peacefully in the water, it's hard to believe that these are some of Africa's most dangerous animals. Only 150 years ago, the banks of the Nile were unspoiled, stretching from Lake Victoria to Egypt's distant deserts. The Nile crocodile has been the river's symbol since the dawn of time. The ancient Egyptians worshipped it as a deity. The national park is inhabited by some of the largest crocodiles in Africa. Many grow up to a length of 5 meters and more. More than 400 bird species breed and hunt along the Victoria Nile. African skimmers migrate within the continent. They stop here to rest and feed. A flock of skimmers is hunting for fish. The bottom half of the bird's beak is considerably longer than the top. The longer part is used like a spoon to scoop small fish from the water. A unique and rare stalk-like species hides in the high papyrus plants, the shoebill. Its habitat is limited to a few African marshlands. These abdins are closely related to the European storks. Alarmed, they take flight. A giant has risen from the water. A large elephant bull has retreated from the scorching sun into the cooling river. Up to his neck in the water, he enjoys the foliage. During dry season, the animals struggle to find water in the surrounding grasslands. But the inexhaustible Nile keeps them alive. Each afternoon, the bull swims to a small island to feed on swamp grasses. Before taking a bite, he scrupulously washes off the mud. Under the scorching sun, time seems to stand still, as if explorers searching for the river's source had only just navigated upriver. The adventurers were looking for Lake Victoria, the largest reservoir of the Nile. It was 1862 when the British explorer John Hanning Speke finally discovered the source of the Nile near the town of Jinja. The famous rapids leaving the lake have long been flooded in order to generate electricity. From the western shore of Lake Victoria, the river travels north through Lake Kyoga and meanders towards Murchison Falls National Park. From Lake Victoria, the Nile descends in a series of steps. Even seasoned local kayakers consider these treacherous rocks and rapids a trial of courage. Nowhere else the Nile is as merciless and intimidating. Kilometers before it reaches Murchison Falls National Park, the river gathers pace. On its flat bed, the Nile transforms into a raging torrent. A rocky island divides the river into narrow passages. 300 cubic meters per second are forced through a 6-meter channel. The passages create two waterfalls, the Uhuru and the Murchison Falls. The Nile plunges 40 meters down. Rocks throw the water back and high up in the air. The Murchison Falls provide a titanic spectacle. Around the falls, a tropical garden flourishes, courtesy of the permanent spray. Murchison Falls are not Africa's largest waterfalls by any means, but they are surely among the most beautiful. The shrill call of the African fish eagle is the embodiment of the wilderness. This eagle sits enthroned like a king above all the continent's large rivers, depicted as a symbol of freedom on the Zambian flag, on the Malawian coins, and in the national coat of arms of both Namibia and South Sudan. The eagle hunts for fish with unparalleled elegance. To the north of the Nile, a hilly savanna catches the eye. It is home to a rare antelope species, the Ugandan kob. In the dry season, all the large herds, whether cobs or elephants, stay close to the Nile. Shy animals, such as the bushbuck, only come down to the water in the early hours of the morning. Bushbucks are solitary animals and will often hide in dense cover and thickets. "20 years ago, there was not much wildlife to be seen. Most large animals were slaughtered during the Civil War of the 1980s, but now the tide has turned. Biologist Tutilo Mutumba researches the progress of the animal population. His team has fitted radio collars on several lions. Tutilo's assistant Sophie tries to locate a signal. Tutilo works for the WCS, the American-based Wildlife Conservation Society. He observes how the prides hunt and defend their territory. The biologists have tracked a large male, less than 20 meters away. They follow 4 prides of lions whose territories are all in the immediate vicinity of the Nile. Sophie and Tutilo estimate that around 130 lions live in the Murchison Falls National Park. It's their last stronghold in Uganda. The biologists spend nearly 8 hours a day observing the lions from their car. This female is enjoying last night's prey, a Uganda kob. Antelopes migrate, so they are a rare feast. The lions, by contrast, remain in their territory. Once the antelope are gone, the lions turn their attention to smaller prey, like warthogs. In the dry season, the sandbanks on the Nile become a hive of activity. The river's enormous wealth of fish attracts hundreds of thousands of birds. Once the water level sinks, many species start breeding. At this time of year, the female crocodiles are particularly aggressive. They shuttle between the cool water and the sandbanks, where they guard their precious buried eggs. They share the banks with a peculiar bird, the water thickney. It nests at the same time, right amongst the giant reptiles. Their partnership is a curious one, but Thickney and crocodile have a common enemy: the Nile monitor. The lizard can grow up to 2 meters and is a notorious egg thief. As soon as the crocodiles leave their watch for the cooling water, the monitor comes out of hiding. A vigilant Thickney immediately sounds a warning and attacks. The calls alert the crocodiles to the thief. In turn, the crocodiles should protect the Thickney and its nest. In theory. The Nile monitor smells the eggs and starts digging. Crocodiles have keen eyesight and an excellent sense of hearing. Despite the warning and the obvious threat, the female remains calm. The monitor uses its forked tongue to scan the sand. It is able to detect the tiniest odor particles and find eggs buried deep in the ground. The crocodile has had enough. The Nile monitor waits for the next opportunity, but it hasn't bargained for the Thickney. Even powerful partners are not always reliable. The female trudges straight towards the nest. The Thickney tries to prevent the worst. The crocodile has stopped millimeters away from the eggs. The Thickney seems stunned. Then, the inevitable happens. All the warnings were in vain. One egg is broken. In the end, the smaller partner is still the weaker. The Thickney immediately disposes of the eggshells and feeds on the remains. Otherwise, the smell would draw predators. At least one of the eggs is undamaged, reason enough for the Thickney to resume incubating immediately. The Thickney keeps faith with the breeding ground. Despite the drama, the bird seems to consider being among the crocodiles as the safest bet for survival. The oppressive afternoon heat covers the savannah like liquid glass. All color fades. Not a single leaf dares to move. Only giraffes roam the land of the Nile, as if in a trance. At sunset, brighter colors and a cool breeze return. With the onset of the golden hour, Sophie and Tutilu set out for their night shift. They're on the lookout for a particular animal, the three-legged lion of Murchison Falls. He was caught in a poacher's trap the previous year. Luckily, Tutilu was able to rescue him, but the vets had to amputate his leg. The lion was cared for and treated with antibiotics. He is now reintegrated in the Pride, to the great surprise of the researchers who expected him to be banished. Tutilu switches on a red light. The color spectrum is hardly visible to lions, and it won't irritate them. One of the lions has hunted down an antelope. As usual, the boss has the first right to feed. A female approaches hesitantly. She needs to wait until a male has had his fill. On average, a dominant male leads his pride for 2 years. Then he is ousted. In Murchison Falls National Park, this tenure is much shorter, as many animals share the three-legged lion's fate. They get caught in the poacher's deadly wires. It will be a long night for the young biologists. After the lions, they have to look out for other nocturnal hunters. A pack of hyenas have made their home on the Nile. Tutilu uses a ruse to attract and count them. He plays them a CD, which is music to their ears. The call of a buffalo calf. Hyenas are intelligent and suspicious animals. Half an hour passes. Nothing seems to happen in this pitch-black night. But Tutilu feels that the hunters are near. Here they are, torn between fear and greed, looking for a lost calf. The hyena population in the national park is small, and Tutilu wants to find out why. The researchers lack the time and funds to study the animal's social and hunting behavior in detail, but at least they can monitor numbers. With the first rays of light, the nocturnal hunters disappear. Now, the banks of the Nile come to life. Birds, such as the pied kingfishers, take up their posts above the river. On the sandstone cliffs, a colony of bee-eaters begin their busy day. This stunning species is called the red-throated bee-eater. All bee-eaters live in colonies of several hundred. Their favorite spot is a solitary branch. For the birds, it's both a lookout and a meeting place. The bee-eaters wait for prey all day. They catch bees and other insects on the wing and take them back to their nesting holes. In the breeding season, life is busy on the few available branches. Both males and females take part in the hunt. Insects are taken straight to their young. Under the critical scrutiny of its mates, the bee-eater has to finish the job elegantly. Further to the west, the river widens, forming the border of Murchison Falls National Park. At first sight, the banks of the Nile outside of the national park also seem to be populated only by animals. But that is not the case. The water birds have shared the Nile with fishermen and farmers for centuries. The Nile is a laundry for everybody, a meeting place for families and entire villages. Today, millions of people live their life on the riverbanks, occasionally with dramatic consequences for the natural habitat. These water hyacinths originate from Brazil. They were imported as a decorative plant in the early 20th century. Now, they have conquered a whole stretch of the river. The Eichhornia crassipes, to call it by its Latin name, is pervasive on the Nile. It is nigh on impossible to take a picture of an animal without this plant gracing the picture as well. The Eichhornia has no natural enemies in Africa. This robust water plant has overrun bays and riverbanks, canals and tributaries from Lake Victoria to the delta in Egypt. In Uganda, there is hardly a place where the hippos do not have to plough through carpets of hyacinths. All around the national park, settlements are being built, increasingly creating conflict. The border of the park is virtually unguarded. There is no ban on fishing. Boats are everywhere. And at night, poachers cross the river and invade the park. The traps are meant for antelopes, but the wire does not discriminate. This trapped lion suffocated in the attempt to secure his freedom. Tutilo has destroyed dozens of traps during the day. He understands the poachers. There is no employment and no support. Fishing or hunting is the only way to secure food. He pulls out a tooth. It'll help him analyze the lion's state of health before his death. The wires are a deadly trap. The harder the animals pull, the more they tighten their grip. The steel wire is strong and unbreakable, even by elephants. This young bull attempts to cool his wound. Dozens of elephants are trapped each year and suffer severe injuries. In this case, a vet will have to amputate the trunk. This giant was able to escape by himself, but his leg is locked. The elephants in Murchison Falls National Park continuously fall victim to poachers and ivory hunters. And yet their population is steadily increasing. In the early 1990s, only 300 elephants remained in the park. Today, their head count is more than 1,000. In the war, soldiers devastated the park's buildings and infrastructure. But now the tourists are back. Wildlife protection is not only worthwhile, but also profitable. To the west of the park, where Lake Albert joins the Victoria Nile, a vast delta expands, covered with papyrus plants. It gives us a glimpse of the boundless wilderness the Nile will soon cross on its journey north. Once it has passed these rapids, the Nile reaches Africa's youngest country, the South Sudan. This country, too, was tied up in a terrible civil war for decades. Sudan gained independence in 2011, but peace is still far away. After these rapids, the Nile changes character, dividing into side arms and transforming into the impenetrable Sud, Africa's largest swamp. The Sud is a wetland that, courtesy of the rainfall, can expand to 100,000 square kilometers. It's a labyrinth of large and small lakes, water meadows, and endless expanses of papyrus. Only one of the many channels is navigable and leads out of the labyrinth in the north. The heart of the Sud is always underwater, even in the dry season. The ground is treacherous, and there is nothing but wind, swaying reeds, and floating grass. The swamp is the domain of the birds. There are no tourists, no cities, and no roads. The perfect wildlife sanctuary. All bird species of the tropical Nile reside here, hiding, breeding, and hunting in the forest of reeds. The Goliath heron is the largest bird in the Sud. He can grow up to 1.5 meters. But the swamp's real treasure is another feathered giant. The shoebill is rare, shy, and elusive. It is a cousin of the pelican, but hunts like a heron from a standing position. Lungfish are among his preferred prey. Several thousand shoebills live in the Sud, far more than anywhere else in Africa. They hunt in the reeds, but build their nests on the sandy banks of the alluvial land. Their offspring must be fully fledged before the great rain arrives, or they'll be swept away by the floods. Only one out of the 2 or 3 chicks will survive. This one has made it, but it will still be several weeks until its first flight. The nests are widely spread and surrounded by water. Even very bold poachers won't venture out here. A parent looks after its charge. The fledgling has just learned to fly. It's ready for the rainy season. As for food, the shoebill faces competition. The edge of the Sud is lined with small fishing villages. These people are called Dinka and have lived in the alluvial lands of the Nile for centuries. The Sud is rich in fish stock. By using the simplest of means, these men catch up to 30 kilograms of fish a day. Catfish, tilapia, perch, and many other species. What the families don't eat will be dried and sold to communities nearby or bartered in the camp. Money doesn't mean much in the wilderness of the Nile. The Nile floods the swamp as well as thousands of square kilometers of grassland. Some of the largest herds of cattle in the world graze here during the dry season. Cattle breeding is the Dinka people's defining purpose, the center of their life and culture. Dinkas are nomads. In December, after the rainy season, the families move into the wetlands, pitch camp and stay there until the Nile floods the pastures again. The smoldering fire originates from the Dinka nomads' camps, from kitchens and burning cow dung. It drives away the flies and other undesirable insects that are attracted by the cattle. The Dinka are the largest ethnic group in South Sudan. The president of the republic and many ministers are Dinka. But these nomads don't think in terms of politics or country borders. It's the cows that really matter. They are their best friends and give milk and more. Not even their urine gets wasted. It is used as a washing agent and for medical purposes. The cattle spend the nights in the camp. In the morning, young herdsmen guide them back to the pastures. A herd consists of 500 cows, sometimes even more. It takes exceptional circumstances for Dinkas to slaughter their animals. They are family members, and they serve as currency and status symbols. As the tributaries and pools dry out, the people go spearfishing. Hundreds of thousands of fish are writhing in knee-deep swamp, caught between land and water. Spearfishing only lasts for a few days, and it's a communal celebration. Africa's greatest opportunists, marabou storks, follow them, waiting for an easy supper. Some fish, they hope, will be dropped or left for them. The Dinka families catch, prepare, and eat the fish together. The children return to the camp, but their days in the Sud are numbered. Rainy season is near, and this place will be flooded within weeks. Even deeper within the Nile swamps, in an area under water all year round, fishermen have probably built some of the most isolated huts in the world. Their floating homes are 80 kilometers away from the mainland. Only the fishermen know how to get here and back. Near the huts, a family of giants has left tracks in the reeds. A large herd of elephants lives in the Sud, but they are elusive. Only a few people have ever seen them. Around 400 animals move between the shallow sandy islands and the vast expanses of papyrus and reeds. This herd of elephants has survived due to their isolation. As long as they remain amongst the papyrus, they will be out of the poacher's reach. It's in the wetlands of the Sud the Nile hides its best-kept secret. These tracks will reveal a story. The tracks are evidence of one of the biggest migrations in the world. The animals moved to the southeast, to the largest virgin savanna in Africa. When the rains come, all this will be covered in greenery. For some, like this antelope, it's too late. These Mongala gazelles are among the first herds that come from the Sud and move to the new pastures where the rainy season begins. The first rains have fallen. Now the gigantic herds arrive. Tiang are moving through the outback. The largest herds number over 20,000. It is thanks to the WCS biologists that we know of this migration. They spent thousands of hours in the air until finally discovering that the antelopes had indeed survived the war. Even team leader Paul Elkin needs luck to find the most stunning antelope of the Nile, the white-eared cob. The dark brown antelope are the males. Females and calves run alongside them. More than 700,000 cob take part in the migration, a breathtaking sight filmed here for the first time. biologists estimate that over 1 million animals are part of this migration, comparable to the famous wildebeest migration in the Serengeti. During the war, many species were wiped out or driven away, but it appears that courtesy of their migration, the antelope were able to escape the slaughter. In Bandingilo National Park, all antelope come together. The reserve and the surrounding savanna are as good as uninhabited. Some 40,000 square kilometers of unspoiled grassland. This is unique, even in Africa. The Great Migration is triggered by the rain and the Nile. In the rainy season, the river floods the Sud's vast grasslands. Once the water has receded and fresh grass has grown, the antelopes will return. The nomads and their cattle follow the same rhythm of nature. In the evening, massive plumes of smoke rise from the wetlands. The smoke originates from the camps of the Dinka nomads. It covers the camp like a magical veil. Soon the men and the women will dismantle the camp and move to pastures at higher altitudes. When the heavy rains arrive, the Nile will swallow all traces of the Dinka camp. "1,000 kilometers upriver, it's a different world. This is Khartoum, a vibrant metropolis and the capital of the Sudan. Here, the Blue Nile merges with the main river, the White Nile. The Nile's mightiest tributary ends in the midst of civilization. But its origins lie in a craggy wilderness of rocks and rapids. These rugged, lonely mountains make up the highlands of Ethiopia. Here, the waters feeding the Blue Nile gather, and the river's adventurous descent to the Sudanese plains begins.